Hi again, it's Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Victor. What are we talking about today?
Well, I think that we still have to help the good people of Northport to keep the fight going on to preserve mineral springs as a jewel for the community and actually for the whole state.
Okay, and here we are in May of 2023. This conversation has been going on since 2010.
Indeed, and the worst twist took place in the last year, with outgoing Jill Luke, who was a big promoter of giving this land to developers.
No,
And I
okay, now,
consider,
first
go
of
ahead.
all, Victor, you were at the current meeting this week, sometime in the single digits of May, in City Hall. What was discussed that you know of?
Yeah, I have attended two meetings at the City Hall in the last couple of months, and I did public comment. My interest is to protect the flavor of the city by protecting the natural, the few 100 acres we still have around the city as green space, as a common and public space to be kept, to be conserved for the future generations. The first meeting I participated, the city hall was full for citizens, one after another have stated their opposition to this P3, which stands for uh, public-private partnership, which are going in the wrong direction. They are not fully transparent. They circumvent the Sunshine Law and they cater to special interests. There's no doubt that someone came with a proposal because of certain specific interest.
Um, and I have not been following any of this. I quit following what's happening in the city after your election on election day last year. And so I do still have questions. How you mentioned the amount of green space in the city. Doesn't the comprehensive plan intone what amount of green space and where it needs to be in which activity centers?
It does, but also the comprehensive plan is under attack now, and they want to revise it. And that's the major problem right now, trying to cater to other interests, to change actually how the city was conceived. And there are big problems because the infrastructure was not designed for higher densities. You probably heard about the estates and everything. But try to focus exactly. This is going to impact the ore mineral springs.
Mhm.
And I'm going to relate to you, while I was a candidate last year, I walked the streets as nobody else, I think, has walked the streets.
That's right.
And I have gotten to talk to people from all corners of the city. I know the issues of most of the neighborhoods. And we have, like, drainage is a problem
Mm.
as a whole system, not only a street that doesn't have the proper drainage, but it's the whole system needs a relook, re-engineered, and adapted to current needs. Now, if you go and add more density, the system cannot bear that burden of water, and flooding is going to be even more exacerbated during the hurricanes. So stop and think. Do you have the money? Go first and put first the infrastructure before you take, you cannot take off with a plane if you don't have the airport.
And that has always been a topic as far as I can remember, putting the infrastructure first, because guess who has to put the infrastructure in? The developers.
Yeah, so the developer wants the city and the citizen to put the burden, and but they get approved these increased densities and so forth at the expense of the public. So it's hard to understand why this politician, why they were put there to represent the people. Now they are going on they don't represent the interests of the people. Now coming back to the war mineral springs, yeah.
Yes.
So getting back to the major issue is that people have spoken that it is even a sacred site for the American Indians, the original people who own the lands. And there was a gentleman, Jimmy, who represented their nation, and he spoke. So there is a cultural, authentic interest to preserve. And the lake itself cannot be, like a big resort because it doesn't have the space. The water, it's limited, the surface and everything. So you cannot envision increasing, making this as a mega resort. And what I did last year when someone said, why you don't want to develop? I want to preserve it, maintain it to a level that is sustainable for all points of view. But then don't go and develop the land adjacent to it, putting big condominiums and hotel and other thing where we don't know, we don't have a geologic study. And a few people at the meeting, they raised the issue. Again, do the study first. Now, there is an agency, the Department of Environmental Protection has a so-called Miyaka River Coordinating Managing Council for Mayaka River.
Yeah,
Miyaka.
you sit on that.
Yeah,
council.
correct. So 2 months ago, there are 3 meetings a year, and you have to be approved by department. All the members are all the governments who are adjacent to the river, or all agencies, and then private citizen. And I'm there like a private citizen, but I'm officially voting on those issues.
Right.
And actually, I'm now the vice president for this year. But John O'Miller, who is the chair of that, we had a motion which was voted, and to represent the opinion of this council as well to the city. And Jono went and spoke because the springs are a tributary to Miyaka River, and it's essential for the manatees, the habitat.
Oh yeah, the habitat is right there.
So here is the point which Jono brought at the meeting at the city, that in 50s there was like, I don't know, 13, the flow rate right now, it's only 60% what was. I went on the Florida Geological Survey, and it says there clearly for everybody to understand that anywhere where you are in Florida, because the geologic substrate, a sinkhole can happen. These springs were created by a sinkhole. Of course, you had to have the water level that was certain, and the pressure of the geologic substrates to create a spring. But it was a sinkhole. What is the likelihood that adjacent to the spring, the same structure exists, which created the collapse? And now you go and put developments and so forth. The history show that in the last 30, 40 years, we lost half of the spring almost, correct? The flow rate. And I like actually what Jono said. What do we want? In a few years, to look, say, warm mineral spring cannot be called springs, but, stagnant pool. So it's just to give you the vision that geology plays a role, how much development you should have.
And I can tell you that in the 4 years that we fought this battle, and I say we, meaning me and Rhonda, and that was to preserve the spring, Rhonda had constantly and consistently mentioned, once you start, because she has the science background, once you start pounding those, whatever those columns are, you probably piles or something, once you start putting those in the ground, you have to know exactly where you're putting them, because you might hit one of these springs, and is it so fragile, the area is so fragile that the whole thing, like you just said, is just going to implode. And my question is, maybe that's their intention. Maybe it's their intention to build the 60 acres, let the spring itself, let the water itself fill up, and then build on that.
I, yeah, that's always a possibility, but I don't think that they look that much. They look for the quickest thing to make some money there, not themselves, but some other developer, and most of this commissioner uh,
Yeah,
got campaign contribution from different developers. If
yeah, yeah,
so they don't have to disclose who donated the money. But if it comes from the builder exchange, you are already sold to the special interest.
Oh, is
So,
it the Builders Exchange that's involved in this?
but I don't know if it is. What I'm trying to say that all of these commissioners, they receive money from different entities linked to the building industry.
Right.
Which is good to have a building industry. And I always keep there is enough food on the table. We have a market-driven economy. The businesses should be profitable, but not to the expense of the public interest. Make it profitable, but not. So that's why this is a land which belongs to the people of Northport.
Right.
Should be set aside
Yes.
for the future generation. It's preservation of the spring, and then have the actual adjacent land undeveloped. Leave it even a natural area. It's criminal what's happening in this part of Florida since I came here. Destruction unbelievable because the building industry is unchecked.
Unchecked,
Because
yes.
this politician, they sold us to the building industry.
Yes.
That's what's happening here. No excuse. And I'm sorry, Mr. Bartalota was the only one who spoke, for the development. And I think he's misguided. He dreams, he's like, his dreams are without any touch with reality. There is other land at other centers, and specifically just for the people to know, it's the two major intersection with I-75. They are prone for other development, but don't take the land which it's in the middle of the old city, correct? Or it's on the western side, but that's necessary to preserve.
More of a congenial state in 1976, as far as I could see. I was just in high school, but as time progressed, it became, as the country probably has, very divided. The Republicans from the Democrats. And the comment you just made that there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats, that's because in the city of Northport, leadership in both parties are basically not even, they're scammers. And
well, yeah, and when I said that, just I want to make it clear, it's the people who are trying to lead these two parties.
That's it.
The people who are, the troops of the parties are different. However, they are misled by the leaders. So what I say, the leaders are the same people, which most of them, I would say, are unethical. I'm talking about Northport, where I know.
That's right.
I'm not generalizing for the country, okay? But I know these groups because I watched them for 14 days during the elections, and I want to thank people of Northport because 14 days, they gave me the vote. The election day and the 14 days, I earned the trust, and all the in-person vote, I won it. I'm very grateful to the people that they listen and they recognize that I try to engage them, understand what it worried them, and try to be on their side when decisions are made. So I thank that. So I got to know because there were the tens of Republicans and staffed by their leaders and people who claim to fame in both parties. And what I seen, it made me think that I don't belong to these people. And those people who vote, party lines. They don't know that they don't belong to these people.
That's
And
it.
they are misled. And that's why we have this in this country. Because some people who are leading, they are not truly reflecting what the peoples believe. I mean, I'm a Republican again. I couldn't say during uh, the election because it was non-partisan. But definitely, what I've seen in the leadership of of the parties in our sport, they are in name only. They are the same kind of people who aspire for interests, for power, to maneuver, and to put their cronies into the position and then influence and do whatever they want.
And what's so sad is that Northport is, by government statistics, considered a poor city. They call it affordable or whatever. It's a much more cuddly word, but it is a poor city. So what scraps are these people that you just talked about? What are they trying to get? There's nothing here.
Yeah,
If you compare it to a place like Miami, for instance.
Yeah, it started because the way the city has been a bedroom community, a pre-platted 70,000 plus lots, it was not conceived to be actually a city. It was more of um, a satellite of city where people will come and sleep and go back to other parts. It's becoming more of a city because attracting some more sustainable businesses and so forth. But the comparison you made with Miami is totally different. Yeah, because the wealth went to different city. Here was people who were buying, enticed to buy with $100 the lots and build and so forth. That's the way the city was born. Yeah. Now, in the last couple of years, specifically because of West Villages, the mix has changed, and even in the city, there are certain parts where, with the pandemic, some younger couples came, and trying to work from home or start a business. So it has shifted. It's not just low income, has shifted, but there is a mix, I would say.
You spoke at length during your campaign about the pre-platted nature of the city. You gave phenomenal statistics and information about how much actual commercial space there actually is versus how much residential. What I'm wondering is, instead of instead of organically attracting people to the city, if it almost looks like our government is going out and pulling them in by the hair.
Yeah, so here's the fallacy of what they are doing, increasing the density. First of it, infrastructure doesn't exist.
Right. And never will.
Secondly, a healthy city, a sustainable healthy city, has to have the mix between business and private, the homeowner, at a certain level.
Yes.
And they are going away from the minimum standards, and taxation will increase, because what they are going to scale up the services, as I said, even the city manager office went rampant with expenditures. So what they will say, well, the population has increased. It's like Ceausescu didn't allow, any abortion on any case, even, for any crime or something, because he wanted to be the king over a higher population of Romania. The same thing I see here with the city. They voted themselves through the charter to get their adjustments based on the city commissioner, based on the population. Yeah, right. They'll increase their salary. The city manager will claim always that we need more assistant city manager, and their increases went ballistic in the last 6 years I have seen here. So what's happening? Adding more population, the infrastructure will suffer. You don't have the mix of businesses to contribute. The tax will increase. they will get more benefits, the leaders of the city, because that's the way they set up the city. And this is a vicious circle, which will put a burden, and this city will become less attractive in the future. Now, there is still open space, and if they increase the density, yeah, they will still attract some population. But it's a dangerous path from multiple reasons. First, because the city was not set up, they destroyed the type of city was conceived to start with, and will make it unsustainable. That's the way I look at it. Because one day, even with the density increase, will stop, and you have to live with what you have. 80% residential versus, I mean, the land was 95 residential, 95% at the beginning. And now they moved to about 90, but now with the increased density, you'll still are going to have a big problem. Even the percentage of the land is not, but the taxpayer paying base will be going to the.
And it kind of goes back to one of the discussions you and I have frequently, because it's kind of comical, about interlopers. Look at who's sitting in office. Alice White and Emmerich are both from New Jersey. McDowell is from Chicago, and Barbara Langdon is from Boston. And there are 4 commissioners in my book. There are 4, and look where they're from: high density, high crime, high urban areas. That's who they are. Yeah. And yet, yeah, and like you said, Alice White is supposed to be the environmental. Everybody in the city that has been here any length of time knows Alice White is for Alice White.
I never consider myself an environmentalist, yeah, but I consider myself as a balanced person who look for living in harmony with the nature. I'm a country boy. I grew up in the village. I love mountains. I love sea. We can live within the means of the city instead of taking all the natural area out.
But that's my point. You grew up in a village. That's who you are. That you have access to that information. That's why when you look at where these other people are from, the New Jersey, etc., and I'm sure there are some nice areas there, that's not where they're from. They're from urbanization. That's who they are, and they can't get past that. That's why what we're seeing is urbanization of the city.
Yes, and again, I'm part of this board, and it's an organization countywide which tries to keep in check development, to be rational, have transportation, have the infrastructure meeting the needs of the people who live there, and don't allow high density, situation where we don't need it. I mean, the 2050 county plan, it was aimed exactly at that, have a sustainable growth.
Yes.
So we were debating about the name of this organization, which is 30-year plus organization in the county. Control growth now. Control, it might seem kind of a little bit dictatorial, but it's to control. It means that you have to have a rational approach, because you cannot approve everything without saying that we have to control this for the destiny of the people who live here. Because again, I made the comment, I said, the springs are not your commissioner, they are not mine, they are the future generation. What are you doing to preserve them?
And that's the point. They don't seem to get it. It's not their city. But, and I've done extensive videos and video edits because that's part of what I do for my volunteer work, to inform the people of what's going on in Florida and in this section of Florida. And what you see is a regular conversation of whichever combination of the 5 that are on the dice at any given time since November 2016, it's all about, well, what do we want? Let's stay united. And it's about those 5 people staying united, not about them uniting the people with the government or uniting the people with the land. It's, what do we 5 want? Well, the creatures of urban, and they're interlopers, and they hold secret meetings. We know that. And so where do the people enter into all of this? And they don't. And do the people even care anymore?
People again, I said you have to have a critical mass to overturn. And if this um, election cycle which comes, people don't wake up, to remove those who have proven, then I would say it will take more time, till the pockets are hit drastically, because will come the time,
Yeah.
will come that time. So the only suggestion I have, don't trust, but verify. President Reagan said it that don't trust them till you verify how they vote.
That's right.
And the trust, you can see it in how they voted. And Warm Mineral Springs, it's in front of them. And the way they looks out, they are not caring at all. So it's a sad story. And definitely, I know that they are not on my voter election. So
none of them have been on mine, so don't worry about that. Well, Victor, it's always fun talking with you.
yeah, thank you. The same, Cheryl. And I think that the politician around here will keep us busy thinking about what we can do, to help our Florida.
Yes, our beautiful, wonderful, unique Florida.
Correct.
Okay, see you then.
See you. Bye-bye.